Hi, welcome back to my channel. This is going to be a review today for the new Insidious film, The Red Door. And this is now the 5th film in the franchise. Obviously that was started way back in 2010 when James Wan brought us that original film. And I was actually really quite excited to see this one because this one is picking up after the events of Chapter 2, basically reuniting the Lambert family, where at the end of that film they had to basically forget and suppress the memories of everything that occurred in that house for their sanity and in order to move forward. And now in this film it's 10 years later, and you can see how having suppressed those memories has now started to cause a lot of cracks in the relationships between these characters, and that effectively they're going to have to go back to face a lot of things from their past. So I am a fan of the Insidious films. I particularly do love that first one. I just thought it was a very creative film in the supernatural horror subgenre. You know, had a lot of really interesting scares. It was a cool idea. You had a great cast there. And, you know, given its success, obviously we were going to have a number of sequels to come after it. And for the most part, I have enjoyed them, but I definitely started to feel like the franchise was running out of steam. You know, they were getting a little bit more stale, starting to rehash ideas. And I just think with this world of Insidious that James Wan and Leigh Whannell built, there maybe wasn't enough content to justify this many movies. So that was my biggest worry going back into this new one. So starting though with what I really did like about this new Insidious film, obviously the star of the franchise, Patrick Wilson, he is here directing as well as acting in this one. And this is his first time out as a director as well. So I was really interested to see this because I actually love Patrick Wilson. And I think he's done a really good job with directing this. You know, it feels perfectly in place with all of the other Insidious films. You know, they have got a very certain style to them. They've got a certain feel about them, these movies. So you do worry when you get a new filmmaker in, is it going to make it feel sort of out of place? But not at all here. You know, he knows how to build the right atmosphere. He knows how to build the tension before the scares, and he knows how to deal with characters in his scenes. So I think in terms of his direction, it fits in really nicely with those other films. And I would actually say since the 3rd film, you know, I actually think he even does a better job than the previous 2 directors we've got. And I will be very interested to see what he goes on to make next as a filmmaker. I really love seeing the Lambert family here together again. I actually had no idea they were going to be able to get all of the original cast back as well. It was insane to me seeing, you know, it doesn't even feel that long ago that original Insidious film came out. So, you know, the young kids in that film, seeing them all grown up now as adults going to college and everything was just crazy to me. It's like one of those moments where you're just like, wow, where did the years go? So that was really cool to see. I love the dynamic between this family. I think there's something something really likable about, you know, actors like Rose Byrne, Patrick Wilson. They've just got a very likable presence about them. You warm to them really quite quickly, and I think that's something that made me really love that original film. So I love seeing them here together again. I did in a way feel like it's a bit of a shame that, you know, given the story here where the relationship's kind of broken, you don't see them get to spend as much time with each other. I kind of did feel like I missed that because, again, as I said, that's something that I really did like about those first 2 films is the relationship between this family and the kids. It just feels very real to me. You feel like you can connect and care about them, which is something that definitely did help this film. If it's the strongest point about this film, I would say it's the fact that very quickly you're able to kind of connect and care about these characters because they've already been set up really well. Whereas with the previous entries, having to start again from scratch and set up a new character, unless it's done really well, you don't get that time to really connect with them before all of the, you know, the crazy stuff starts to happen. So I think bringing these characters back was a great idea for this film. I also like this new character of Chris as well, who is the roommate of Dalton when he goes off to college. And she's kind of like acting as the comic relief here, a way to lighten the tension in certain scenes. Because obviously, you know, in the previous Insidious films, we had the 2 ghost hunters. And they were characters that I never really liked, to be honest. I never found them that funny. I just found it a little bit cringy, a lot of the humour. And often when they turned up, I felt like it changed the tone of the film somewhat. You know, especially in that first film when they first turn up, it's like for a minute it feels like you're watching a different movie. So I never really got into their characters. I did think I started to warm to them a little bit as the franchise went on, especially when you got to the last key, just because of their relationship with Elise. I quite liked, but you know, I definitely was not. I was not enjoying the comedy at all there. Whereas this character Chris, it feels a lot more natural. She's very funny. She's got a very like bubbly personality, and she works well with Dalton. So the times that she's on screen and she's being funny and having a laugh with him, it never takes away from the tension in the film, never ruins a scene with anything goofy and some ridiculous moment put in there. It all feels very natural. So I did feel like I really enjoyed her being along for this movie. One of the things I am mixed on here is a lot of the way the scares are played out. And now there are some really good jump scares here. You know, I did see this in the cinema tonight, and a lot of the scenes definitely did get me. There's no doubt about it. And there is some creepy moments for sure. But I do still think this film is missing a lot of what that first film had, where it wasn't just relying on those jump scares. You know, a lot of the spooky sequences in that original were slowly long played out scenes, you know, the camera still and just creeping you out with weird imagery or ideas planted into your head. And I really loved that. They're films that are like that. The scares end up staying with you long after you finish watching the film. Whereas when you start to go back to the sort of the jump scares, just loud noises catching you out in a dark room with something jumping out at you, yeah, okay, it makes you jump and gets you in the moment, but it doesn't stay with you after you've left the film, and you get over it and you kind of end up forgetting about it. And you know, I don't want to be too harsh on the film for that, but I think when it comes to how scary the film was, I definitely was left wanting a little bit more here. My main problem was, though, leaving this film, is I just couldn't help but feel like, you know, there was not enough reason for this film to be made. There was not enough plot here and story to justify a fifth film in the franchise. And I think because a lot of this film, it does feel like it's rehashing those events from the first two films. It's kind of re-going over certain plot points we had throughout that and finding a way to sort of conclude the whole thing. And in some ways, I do like how they concluded this, but I just don't feel like there's enough going on here to make me feel like I needed to go out and see this film. And, you know, if you're in the cinema and you start to feel like, when you're watching something, if you start to feel like, you know, this has not been made because somebody had this great idea saying, you know, I've got this fantastic idea for a new Insidious film. We've got to make that. Let's get it in production. This does not feel like that. This feels like a film that, you know, it's already been said by the studio, you know, we need another Insidious film, right, let's think up a plot for it. And that's what this film feels like, you know, bringing back original characters, you know, going back to the beginning, starting over again, and concluding those things once and for all. I don't feel like there's enough here to merit the existence of having a whole fifth film in the franchise. And I can understand there will be young people going in tonight who have never seen previous Insidious films before. And obviously you want to make it accessible to them, you know, because it's off-putting when you say number 5 and you know you've got to go back and watch 4 previous entries from years ago. Young people probably don't want to do that. And this film, I'm sure a lot of people like that will come out and will enjoy this. Because, you know, it is a decent film, it's a well-made film and everything like that. But I just feel like as a fifth entry, when I've come every year, every time we've had a movie for the last 13 years, I've come to see them. And again, this is another one that I've left just feeling like there's nothing that great that's being brought into this franchise now. I really do feel like it is running out of steam. It's maybe time to move on and get another idea going, get a new franchise, get a new film going, and get some fresh ideas rather than going back to revisit this, because I feel like at most, really, Insidious should have been probably 2 films and you could have covered everything you'd want to in this world. And I think by this time now, it's gone too far and it's probably time to put this franchise to bed, I think. So overall, just to conclude my thoughts on the film, It's another good Insidious entry. I think if you're someone like me that's seen the previous 4 films and enjoyed them to any extent, there's no reason why you won't enjoy this one as well. But I think if you're someone that's never, not really been into those sequels, was starting to get a bit tired of the franchise, I don't think this film has done enough that it's going to change anyone's mind. It's not going to bring you back around to the Insidious films, I don't think. So yeah, another decent entry. Again, it was good to see Patrick Wilson on his first directing job. Definitely looking forward to seeing what he does next in another franchise or with another original film. I will look forward to that. But this is a fairly good, but other than that, fairly generic horror film. So I'm going to give this one a 3 out of 5 rating. So thank you very much for watching my review of the new Insidious film. And please do as well let me know in the comments what you thought about this one. Whether it's better than some of those previous sequels we've had. Does this for you live up to James Wan's original Insidious film? Would really love to hear all your thoughts. And also, please do leave me a like on the video and do subscribe to the channel if you've enjoyed this. I've got some good content coming next week. I'm carrying on my Evil Dead review series. So if you like horror reviews, new release reviews and stuff like that, please do join in and subscribe. I've got lots of good content coming for you. Thanks a lot for watching. I'll see you next time.